Thank you to each of the witnesses. Mr. Parker, I want to thank you again for sharing your story and your daughter's story. And I will say I very much agree with you that you ought to be able to sue the heck out of Google and YouTube.
Yep.
And if anybody else other than big tech did what they have done to you, if any other citizen delivered a VHS tape of the murder of your daughter to you and your neighbors, you would have a common law tort for intentional infliction of emotional distress, and you could recover very significant damages. There is one group in the United States that is allowed to do what it's doing to you, and that is big tech, because Congress has given them a special subsidy and immunity from liability so they don't bear the consequences of their actions. And I think this hearing has underscored the need for Congress to revisit that.
And I hope you will do so, sir.
As do I. Mr. Prager, you described YouTube restricting various videos, I guess a total of, I believe it is 56 videos produced by Prager University on topics like the Ten Commandments. Another topic, as I understand it, that was restricted was one in which noted liberal, Professor Alan Dershowitz, who was a professor of mine in law school, did a video for you, a historical account of Israel's founding. And as I understand it, YouTube restricted that video as well. Does YouTube ever explain why it is restricting these videos?
It explains nothing. It explains nothing. This was the first explanation I heard, the incorporation of murder into the Ten Commandments. With regard to Professor...
You would think we would want young people
we would.
hearing thou shalt not murder. That seems like a really good...
It was an argument for the alternative universe at that moment for me. I had never accepted the possibility of one, but I agree with you. One would think that that is exactly what young people should hear. God doesn't want you to murder. But so be it. As regards Professor Dershowitz and the video on Israel's founding, we have 320 videos. 15 of them concern Israel, and half of them have at one time or another been restricted. There is clearly a loathing of Israel at Google. I suspect there is a loathing of America as well. Virtually every video that we have put out that depicts America in a favorable way has also been at some time or another on the restricted list. My favorite example for years was Victor Davis Hanson, this remarkable professor of classics. And he made a video. He's one of the most calm-speaking humans I have ever met. He's the opposite of a grenade-throwing speaker. And the subject was the Korean War. The Korean War in 5 minutes. And it is no longer on the restricted. They go in and out, apparently, in some cases. And that was on the restricted list because, so I try to think, why would that be? And I could only come up with the fact that it shows how noble America's cause in Korea was. That 37,000 Americans died to keep half of the Korean peninsula free. How many people even know that? The Korean War is in the rubbish bin of history, so as Lenin used to put it. It's just unknown. So we want people to be proud of America, not proud of its evils. Of course America's had evils because it's composed of people and people do evil. But it's largely been extraordinarily good, and they don't want us to depict that.
And Mr. Prager, could you describe what the effect is when a video is placed on the restricted list? We heard the representative from Google say, oh, it's no big deal, it's just 2%. You should be just fine with it. What is the effect of Google arbitrarily
Well, as I
placing
explained
videos
earlier, it can't be seen by vast numbers of parents have filters, totally understandably given how much junk is on the internet. So this is what's so very important. It not only hurts us in that family can't see that video. It hurts us because then it is a statement by Google that Prager University produces videos on the moral level of pornography. I mean,
and there's no appeal, there's no remedy when
no, there is none.
Arbitrary power.
We have actually spoken to representatives of theirs that after they say algorithm, if we actually get someone on the phone, we have had humans review it at Google and keep it up. Why? That's community standards. Your video violated community standards. Well, how exactly does the founding of Israel by a Harvard law professor violate community standards? It just does.
You know, I have to say, it reminds me of the famous adage about the Supreme Court. We are not infallible because we are final, but rather we are not final because we are infallible, but rather we are infallible because we are final. And that appears to be the same approach at Google. Dr. Epstein, I found your testimony incredibly powerful and incredibly concerning. And if anyone draws news out of this hearing, I would encourage you to review very carefully Dr. Epstein's testimony. And I'd like to take a moment to make clear several things. First of all, as I understand your background, you're not a Republican and nor are you a conservative. Is that accurate?
That would be an understatement.
And indeed, you're the former editor-in-chief of Psychology Today.
Correct.
So you're a respected academic. You testified before this committee that Google's manipulation of votes gave at least 2.6 million additional votes to Hillary Clinton in the year 2016. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And I want to make sure I understand. You personally supported and voted for Hillary Clinton.
I was a very strong public supporter of Hillary Clinton, yes.
So you're not dismayed that people voted for her, but your testimony is that Google is, through bias in search results, manipulating voters in a way they're not aware of.
On a massive scale. And what I'm saying is that I believe in democracy, I believe in the free and fair election, more than I have any kind of allegiance to a candidate or a party.
And looking forward, if I understood your testimony correctly, you said in subsequent elections, Google and Facebook and Twitter and big tech's manipulation could manipulate as many as 15 million votes in a subsequent election?
In 2020, if all these companies are supporting the same candidate, there are 15 million votes on the line that can be shifted without people's knowledge and without leaving a paper trail for authorities to trace.
Now, you described the Go Vote reminder, and you said it wasn't a public service announcement, but rather manipulation. Can you explain how? I'm not sure everyone followed the details of that.
Well, sure. If on Election Day in 2016, if Mark Zuckerberg, for example, had chosen to send out a Go Vote reminder, say just to Democrats, and no one would have known if he had done this, that would have given that day an additional at least 450,000 votes to Democrats. And we know this without doubt because of Facebook's own published data, because they did an experiment that they didn't tell anyone about during the 2010 election. They published it in 2012. It had 60 million Facebook users involved. They sent out a Go Vote reminder, and they got something like 360,000 more people to get off their sofas and go vote who otherwise would have stayed home. The point is, I don't think that Mr. Zuckerberg sent out that reminder in 2016. I think he was overconfident. I think Google was overconfident. All these companies were. I don't think he sent that out. Without monitoring systems in place, we'll never know what these companies are doing. But the point is, in 2018, I'm sure they were more aggressive. We have lots of data to support that. And in 2020, you can bet that all of these companies are going to go all out. And the methods that they're using are invisible. They're subliminal. They're more powerful than most any effects I've ever seen in the behavioral sciences. And I've been in the behavioral sciences for almost 40 years.
You know, our Democratic colleagues on this committee often talk about what they view as the pernicious effect of big money and big corporate dollars. What you are testifying to is that a handful of Silicon Valley billionaires and giant corporations are able to spend millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars collectively, massively influencing the results of elections. And there's no accountability. You said, we don't know. We have no way of knowing if Google or Facebook or Twitter sends it to Democrats or Republicans or how they bias it, because it's a black box with no transparency or accountability whatsoever. Am I understanding you correctly?
Senator, with respect, I must correct you.
Please.
If Mark Zuckerberg chooses to send out a go vote reminder just to Democrats on Election Day, that doesn't cost him a dime.
Fair enough. Do you happen to know who the Hillary Clinton campaign's #1 financial supporter was in the year 2016?
I think I do, but please remind me.
The #1 financial supporter of the Hillary Clinton campaign in the 2016 election was the parent company of Google, Alphabet, who was our first witness. They were her #1 financial donor, and your testimony is, through their deceptive search methods, they moved 2.6 million votes in her direction. I would think anybody, whether or not you favor one candidate or another, should be deeply dismayed about a handful of Silicon Valley billionaires having that much power over our elections to silently and deceptively shift vote outcomes.
Again, with respect, I must correct you. The 2.6 million is a rock bottom minimum. The range is between 2.6 and 10.4 million, depending on how aggressively they used the techniques that I've been studying now for 6.5 years.
Wow, could you just say that again, please?
The 2.6 million is a rock bottom minimum. The range is between 2.6 and 10.4 million votes, depending on how aggressive they were in using the techniques that I've been studying, such as the search engine manipulation effect, the search suggestion effect, the answer bot effect, and a number of others. They control these, and no one can counteract them. These are not competitive. These are tools that they have at their disposal exclusively.
If any headline comes out of this hearing, that should be it.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, who said this? I'm a socialist.